I thought we'd just have a little catch up. So tell me, what is your freshest thinking on? There's so much going on in the world.
Well, I have to say that I spent several months refusing to watch the news. It just was so disheartening. Suddenly, I feel a glimmer of hope. Kamala is utterly brilliant. People have wanted a different kind of energy and a different kind of thinking, and they haven't had it. It's been a big void, and it looks like they've wanted something horrible, but it turns out no. Trump, I think, is digging a grave for himself. The more obnoxiously he responds, the more he's doing harm to it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like you, I woke up this morning and I read the news and I just thought, I don't want to look at the news anymore because of what was going on in Southport. And it upset me because just how awful it is. And then you've got Nigel Farage just saying, oh, well, we don't know. We don't know. So in other words, he's fueling the sort of conspiracies that are on the internet. And that really upset me. I am much more hopeful about stuff in the States. Though it's interesting, he's so clever, Donald Trump. I was listening to him yesterday, and the way he'll say something like, oh, well, she failed her bar exams. Maybe she passed them. The way he'll just say maybe, just a hint so that it can launch this conspiracy. Oh, she never did pass. As I said, that thing about Farage, it's people adopting that Trump way. And I think the more he continues to win over people, and he does, then the more people think, oh, whether I agree with it or not, that's the approach I have to take. That's the way you get people, you manipulate people. And he's a master manipulator and is giving a world-class lesson in how to manipulate. Line Kelly Chase, can you give us a succinct summary of, if that's even possible, of, this amazing work you're doing?
Line Kelly Chase is a charitable foundation. It's been in existence for 70 years. So it's I would say mid-sized foundation, generally between 130 and 160 million pounds.
Wow.
And about 10, 11 years ago, they hired a new chief exec, Julian Corner, who had a strong social change, social justice background, and began carving out a vision about how people can take care of themselves, can build the society that they want to build. We went through a number of iterations that kept having a particular problem or a unique problem of, as it came up to fulfilling the vision that it held, became clear that the way in which we were doing it was not producing the outcomes that we wanted. That the ways in which we were working were limited by being a function of the society we live in the history of colonialism, racism, economic injustice. Well, I came into the foundation about 7 years ago. I was hired as chair. Hired is the wrong word. We don't get paid in the charity world. But I became chair and was brought in primarily for my expertise around systems. Systems change, large systems change. And then once again, we got to a place where, well, we've done a lot of stuff around systems work, a lot of stuff around high levels of participation in the work that we're doing. Yet, generating kind of liberation theology in some ways for people. And then it became clear that it wasn't enough. It couldn't realize what it was we were trying to do. One of the things that became clear is that the foundational world exists in a world of contradictions. And that our belief is that those contradictions cannot be overcome by running the current system in a better way. You have to give way to an entirely new way of thinking about things. And we made a decision that in 5 years, we would redistribute all our funds in a way that supported a new way of working in society and in support of racial, economic, and social justice. So that's what we've been doing, and it's quite demanding. We put that word out for the charity world and the foundation world, and we're met with a combination of love and anger, a combination of brilliance and irresponsible. It has quite polarized or revealed the polarization that was already there. And remember that in the charity world, as a function of maintaining the system as it is, the charity world boards are all voluntary. So
Mhm.
you can't be paid as a board member in the charity world. And that facilitates maintaining the boards as all white ventures. Charity boards in the UK are 99% white, 70% male white. So, and that's not who they serve, right? So it's a problem.
Mhm.
The other thing is that the system will try to maintain itself as it is, no matter what happens, no matter what you throw at it, it will try to be itself. And that's certainly going on. One of the things that's really hard right now is trying to negotiate the old and the new. Keeps pulling you back into the old, right? So you're making decision. You're trying to work the system in a way that invites you to be less than just, I guess I would say.
It's absolutely fascinating. And when you were saying about the way things are and how you want them to be, it reminded me of Parker J. Palmer and his talk about standing in the tragic gap and it being tragic because you can never really feel it. There's always the gap between where you are and how you want things to be. And how does one stand in that gap without falling into corrosive cynicism or
Right.
irrelevant idealism and being able to hold those tensions. And I'm just wondering, what's your message there, for those of you on the board, the chief exec, trying to hold that, as you say, you get pulled back into the old way of doing things. And I'm just wondering how that is for leaders who are in these
Yeah.
sorts of roles.
I guess my view is that we need dialogic discipline. So these small dialogic processes that are done consistently with leaders, with people throughout the organization, that you're in a conversation constantly asking, looking at what it is you've done and saying, does this look like the future we're trying to create? And that if you have enough voices in that, you have enough discipline about that, you really can catch, oh, wait a minute, the way we're doing this is the wrong way. It's not fulfilling what it is we think should happen. What's emerging over here looks like the future over here. So let's go pursue that some actions. And by the way, I think it's a practice that everybody should be.
Mhm. Yeah, it makes me think, that whole point about being willing to hear that dissenting voice and willing to recalibrate. And as you say, being open to what is emergent, because, I think in my world, the work I do, it's very much about moving away from an addiction to adrenaline, certainty, and control to one of respect, ease, and interest, where we can really listen with each other, where we, not holding things so tight, but allowing things to flourish, for ideas to emerge and to create the space for people to say what they really think, knowing that others are genuinely listening as we try to make sense of things. What I really want is to be live streaming so that we can all the time be spontaneous. Now, that might mean we sometimes say something, think, oh my God, did I say that? Is that going to be out in the public domain? Because I think we all have our blind spots and we all have our prejudices and all of that. And I think as long as we're always careful about what we're saying, trying to rehearse things, script things, then all that happens is we allow the other side to control the airwaves because it's like they say, the devil has the best tunes. And very often the Trumps and the Katie Hopkins of this world, who were so outrageous, they grabbed the attention of those who are for whatever reason feeling disenfranchised, feeling threatened, fearful in some way. And I think, as I say, I think the devil has the best tunes, and that applies sometimes to what we're seeing in public discourse and politics.
I saw a thing this morning, the HSJ, that some trust is having a whole group of people from NHS England explore their safety in this particular trust, what the issues are. And I realized, well, the beginning of my system work was actually done in a big chemical manufacturing, it's the biggest in the world, a DuPont factory. And we created the safest working environment in the world at that time, literally. Um, uh, and, how that happened, so different from, traditional approaches, or traditional approach around safety is that, everybody has to know all the rules and regulations, and that's what they practice. But this, where we got it was relational, was that safety is about caring for yourself, caring for your family, caring for one another, right, for your coworkers. So,
Oh, and I mean, that's fascinating. And I think, and of course, the rules that are important. But when you have the caring on top of that, there's a reason why you follow the rules. People are more
Right.
likely to follow the rules and understand the rules and take an interest in what the rules are and how they can contribute to the rules, rather than it being like, the regulator comes in and all that kind of stuff. I remember when I was doing some work with a big construction company and we were looking at safety issues, and I was talking about some of the very big first environmental cases in the States, and how that, I don't know if you remember the Japanese film Rashomon. Rashomon was one of Akira Kurosawa's films where you
Yes.
looked at a story from a number of different angles, and they started to have this Rashomon approach in looking at environmental disasters. And,
Right.
and that was many years ago, but even today it's like, what is the truth? There are so many versions of the truth. It was fascinating, but an example of art, the world of art, bringing in a different way of looking at things.
Yes, there's an older book called Art and Physics. But one of the things that it was tracking was that art would lead the world of physics.
Mm,
That a breakthrough in some art movement, you would see an echo of it in the
yeah,
physical science or
yeah.
physics.
Well, absolutely. And Galileo, when he was looking at the moon and he looked at the mountains on the moon, he could understand them because his work as an artist meant that he could understand shadow. So he could see what was going on the moon better because of his art. And I always thought that was a wonderful example.
Okay,
Thank you.
great to see you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.